Back to the European story. David Costa is Dean of Robert Kennedy College and is standing by live in Zurich for us. David, thanks as always for joining us this Friday morning. Let's talk about this rate hike that now looks pretty imminent then for the Eurozone. Do you think that Jean-Claude Trichet and the ECB are going to regret this move in the future? As one of our guests pointed out earlier on, their last rate hike, of course, came in 2008, just before the collapse of Lehman Brothers, and has been dismissed by many market watchers since as a mistake. What do you think of this move?
A very good morning to you, Anna. Well, I think it's very interesting to see how the same problem, which is inflation, is seen very differently from Europe to the United States. In the US, the Fed is saying we have a double mandate, a mandate for growth and a mandate for price stability. But in Europe, both the Bank of England and the European Central Bank say our mandate is clearly on price stability, and that has to have priority. I don't think that the raise which Trichet has mentioned as possible and not final for April will be substantial enough to dampen growth in Europe. So I don't think that move will be regretted, because I don't see inflationary pressure through the commodities to go away anytime soon.
That said, David, we also have this S&P warning about Portugal and Greece, and it's not as if Trichet doesn't acknowledge that there's a two-speed way in European area in the Eurozone. He also talks about keeping some of the monetary operations in place. Is that going to create a lot of dislocations in the markets at a time of plenty of inflation?
I think that's certainly a problem to have a unique policy for Europe, which is very diverse. So what I think is that much has to be seen on the summit of next week to see what kind of measures are in place to take into account not just the very fast-growing economy like Germany, but also those countries which have problems, and they still have to solve much of their issues. And we have seen many issues around renegotiation of terms, which doesn't seem to be possible in the short term. So yes, Europe has to find a way to have a more coherent strategy to take everybody into account. That said, inflationary pressure is here, apparently is here to stay, and at some point something has to be done. Otherwise there is the risk really that the currency erodes in a way which is really as fast as the inflation actually.
David, let's talk about some of the stress test results that we're going to see. You say they might be more rigorous and might even have some surprising results. So what can we expect?
Well, the first criticism that we had last year from the stress test is that some of the Irish banks were given the go-ahead as everything is fine, but it wasn't fine because just a few months after Ireland went to ask for a bailout. So the new stress tests, which are the first initiative from this pan-European supervising agency, are supposed to be more rigorous. They are now asking even investors what they would want to see on the stress test. But one thing is sure, will be more rigorous. The methodology is not yet published. It will be published shortly, and the results will probably be published in June. The surprise that could be negative much depends if in the methodology we have a scenario of default or even restructuring of the sovereign debt in Europe. So I think there could be some negative surprises in the sense that some of the European banks, and that we have seen it even yesterday with the message of Trichet, which was appealing to the banks that do not have enough capital to go and look for capital now before it's actually too late and investors turn even more negative on the European banking system.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be rather a testy time for some of the European banks there. Thank you so much for waking up early for us. We really appreciate it. David Costa talking to us from Robert Kennedy College in Zurich. And